Pirahalads, the pious child. Demon Iranian. Ages ago, there lived a sage called Kasiba in the land of Bharat. He had two wives, Tidi and Attidi. Tidi had two sons, and they were Iranian and Iraniyatsahan. Both her sons were cruel by nature. They grew up with committing crimes being their only pastime. Iraniyatsahan grew up to be a very cruel Rakshasa or demon. Even as he grew young, he conquered all three worlds and made the Devas and the humans his slaves. To save Devas and humans who were leading miserable lives under the tyranny of Iraniyatsahan, Mahavishnu took the avatar of Sri Varaka with a face like that of a wild white boar and a stature that reached the skies. Mahavishnu, in his avatar of Sri Varaka, killed and destroyed Iraniyatsahan with his sharp teeth. The Devas and humans worshipped Mahavishnu, who redeemed the world with his sharp teeth. Then he replaced the earth on its axis, which had lost balance because of the cruelties of Rakshasa or the demon. Iranian's vow. When Iranian heard that his brother Iraniyatsahan had been killed, his anger grew without any bounds. He wanted to kill Mahavishnu and avenge his brother's death. I will avenge the death of my loving brother. I will kill that Narayan and all his devotees. I will see to it that there is no one to worship Mahavishnu in all the three worlds. Swore Iranian. Therefore, Iranian wanted to perform penance to get rare powers to enable him to carry out his revenge. And so he went to the Mantra mountain to perform his penance. There, in the midst of jungle that teemed with wild animals, he stood unmoving on his toe and performed a severe penance invoking Lord Brahma. He performed the penance for several years continuously, without food and sleep, as a result of which his body became skeleton-like. An anthill formed around his body. The boons of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, pleased by Iranian's penance, appeared before him. He sprinkled holy water from his Kamandala on the anthill. The anthill disappeared. Iranian appeared from out of the anthill, all rejuvenated in his former glory, and bowed before Lord Brahma. O my devotee, I am pleased with your penance. What boon do you want? Asked Lord Brahma. Iranian began listing what he had already decided to ask. Dear Lord Brahma, I must be the sole king of all the three worlds. I should not meet my death at the hand of anyone created by you. My death should not occur within the house nor outside, neither at night nor in the daytime. I should not die on earth nor in the skies. My death should not be at the hand of the devas, plants, or animals. No weapon should cause my death. Please give me that boon, asked Iranian. Lord Brahma smiled. He granted Iranian his boon and vanished. Irania the arrogant. Iranian returned to his land armored with all the boons he wanted. He enlisted a large army and conquered the heavens, the earth, and the netherworld. He conquered the land of Indra and made Indra, the king of Devas, his slave. Varuna, Agni, Vayu, Surya, Chandra, that means sun and moon, Yama, and all Devas were overpowered by Iranian and were made his slaves. Iranian declared that he was the god of all world and ordained that everyone should worship only him. He ordered that no one should worship Mahavishnu, that is Sri Narayan. If anyone were to break the rule and mention Mahavishnu's name or meditate his name, they were to be put to death. Thus, Iranian derived pleasure by harassing thousands of Vishnu devotees. The people lived in constant fear and worry, yearning for the end of the rule of Irania. The visit of sage Narada. One day, sage Narada came to Iranian's palace to meet him. Sage Narada, who was a seer, went to see Iranian's wife, Kayadu Devi too. Kayadu Devi welcomed him with joy and piety. She offered him delicious fruits and was a wonderful hostess. Sage Narada was amazed that such a cruel king as Iranian was blessed with an affectionate and pious woman as wife. He told her about the greatness of God Mahavishnu and his holy avatar to save the world. He narrated several stories about the divine play of Lord Vishnu. Kayadu Devi fell asleep while listening to the stories. Sage Narada did not realize that she had fallen asleep and went on narrating his stories. That was because while he was narrating the stories, a small voice kept acknowledging, uttering, It was only when he finished narrating one of the stories that Narada realized that Kayadu Devi had fallen asleep. Then who else was listening to him and responding, wondered Narada. To find this out, he began narrating a fresh story. When he heard that sound, this time Narada, the divine sage, was able to find out the source of the voice. It was no other than the baby in Kaidu Devi's womb that was listening to the stories with such rapt attention. Narada was happy to note this. He blessed the child and told some more stories about the greatness of Lord Vishnu and then left the palace. Birth of the baby boy Pirahalad. The divine child was born on an auspicious day. People on earth and the heavens were happy that someone had at least appeared to deliver them the freedom that they were looking for. The baby that radiated like the full moon was named Pirahalad by Iranian. Pirahalad learning at Gurukula. Pirahalad grew up to be a beautiful boy with each passing day. When he reached the schooling age, Iranian wanted to send him to a Gurukula. This is a form of education in which the pupil stays with the teacher in his house, attends to his needs, and also learns from him many different arts, science, astronomy, and religion at the same time. Sukracharya, the guru of the Raksas, had two sons, Sandan and Amarkan. Pirahalad was sent to the Gurukulas of these two teachers to gain an education. The two teachers began to teach Pirahalad. The first lesson was in praise of God. At that point of time, Iranian was declared to be the god of all three worlds. So the teachers taught Pirahalad to worship Iranian as the god and pray to say, Om Iraniyaya Nama, the Narayana mantra. The child Pirahalad folded his hand in prayer, closed his eyes, and his pretty lips pronounced Om Namo Narayana. Hearing that forbidden prayer from the lips of the crown prince, both teachers were aghast. They were afraid that if Iranian came to know of this, he would send them both to their death. They told Pirahalad, "Oh dear child Pirahalad, don't utter these words. Your father Iranian is the king of all world. He is also the god of all world." Pirahalad laughed. "Oh my teachers, you both are wrong. It is true that my father is the king of all three worlds. It is also true that he is very powerful, but he cannot look after all the life forms living in all three worlds. Only Lord Mahavishnu has the capacity to do that. Therefore, you should worship only him, saying Om Namo Narayana," he advised his teachers, father and the son. After a few months, one day his teachers took him to his father Iranian. Iranian, who was seeing his son after many days, embraced him affectionately and had him sit on his lap. "Oh, my son Pirahalad, Are you learning well? Are the teachers training you properly? He asked. Yes, my father, replied Pirahalad. Iranian was overjoyed. Okay, let us see. Tell me some of the important lessons that they have taught you, he asked. Pirahalad closed his eyes, folded his hand, and devoutly uttered, Om Namo Narayana. Iranian was shaken as if he had stepped on a snake. His eyes reddened in anger. He pushed his son away and came stomping to confront the teacher. Foolish idiots, you have taught my son to utter the name of my own enemy. How dare you? He thundered. Both the teachers trembled. O king, we taught your son to utter only Om Iraniya Nama, but he keeps uttering only the name of Vishnu all the time. And not only does he alone do that, but he has also taught the rest of the people to say that. They pleaded. Iranian came back to his son, advising the father, O my son, Pirahalad, is it right to ignore all the good things that your teachers have taught you and utter the name of my own enemy alone? He asked. My dear father, you are my father. I have that sincere love for you. But Lord Vishnu is the father of all living things. He is the savior of all the world. What's wrong in worshipping him? He asked fearlessly. Iranian's anger increased when he heard the name of Vishnu. How could his son utter the name of one whom he was waiting to avenge? My son, don't say that again. Narayan is our sworn enemy. He killed your uncle. My life's ambition is to avenge his death, hissed Iranian. Pirahalad laughed. But, my dear father, can you conquer Lord Vishnu, who permeates all world? Take refuge at his feet and worship him. You will be delivered, advised the son. Cruel punishment to the little boy. How do you dare to advise me? Screamed Iranian with rage and flung his son to a corner. He called out for his Rakshaka soldiers and said to them, O warriors, this is not my son. He is a misfit to my lineage. If we leave him alive, he will destroy our Rakshaka generation. Bind him up and take him away. Torture him and kill him, he ordered them. The soldiers bound Pirahalad in chains and dragged him away and tortured him with sword, spears, and other such deadly weapons. The boy Pirahalad kept uttering Lord Vishnu's name, and when the soldiers' weapons touched him, the weapons broke and were shattered. The soldiers stood amazed. They were furious at the power of the small boys and tried to make poisonous snakes bite him. The snakes that has been hungry for several days fell on Pirahalad and bit him. But how amazing! The snake's teeth broke and shattered. Lord Vishnu showed to it that their poison did not harm Pirahalad in any way. The soldiers were tried their best to have Pirahalad killed somehow. Got frenzied elephant to attack Pirahalad. They thought that Pirahalad will be trampled to death under the leg of frenzied elephant. But the elephant that surrounded and cornered Pirahalad furiously and trumpeted loudly suddenly bowed before him in obeisance. They then turned around and attacked the soldiers who had guarded them. They snatched the soldiers by their trunk and thrashed them to death. The rest of the soldiers ran for their lives. Pirahalad returned to the palace singing "O Namo Narayana." Iranian was furious when he heard that the effort of the soldiers had been futile and that Pirahalad had escaped the attempt on his life. So he decided to confront Mahavishnu on his own grounds. He called for a very powerful Asura. Asura is another name for demon or Rakshasa. The Asura's name was Sambasura and commanded him to kill Pirahalad. Sambasura transformed himself into a large giant and tried to kill Pirahalad. But he could not even get close to Pirahalad, who sat chanting in praise of Vishnu devoutly. Mahavishnu's power surrounded Pirahalad and saved him from any harm. Sambasura retreated in shame. Iranian, who saw this, was even more furious. He called upon some of his strongest soldiers and told them to tie up Pirahalad with deadly snake and to drop him in the middle of the ocean. The soldiers did just that. They brought the deadliest snake from the depth of Pirahalad, the underworld, and tied up Pirahalad with those snakes. Then they put him on a ship, sailed to the deepest part of the ocean, and threw Pirahalad into the water. The water rose up sharply where Pirahalad was thrown in. The king of the ocean appeared from amidst the sea. Pirahalad was saved, and the deadly snakes had all been returned to the death of the power of Mahavishnu. The king of the ocean carried Pirahalad to the shores of the ocean, blessed him, and departed. Pirahalad, who was left on the shores, thanked Mahavishnu for saving him. The most bounteous Lord Mahavishnu appeared before Pirahalad and gave him his blessing and many boons. Pirahalad walked back to the palace, singing sweet song in praise of Lord Mahavishnu. Iranian was amazed to see his son, Pirahalad, who returned happily to the palace. Though Iranian was happy to see his son return safely, he was furious that his son kept uttering the name of his own enemy. He called his son and spoke to him, "My son, Pirahalad, all three worlds tremble in fear of my strength. The Devas, the Asuras, the humans being worship me, calling me their God. You alone defy me and keep uttering my enemy's name. Who gave you this audacity? Tell me," he demanded. The omnipresent Sri Mahavishnu. Pirahalad smiled at his father fondly. "My father, one who has surrendered himself to the Lord Mahavishnu, who looks after the welfare of all the world, will never be afraid of anyone. Any harm that befalls him would be taken care of by Mahavishnu. He answered, "Oh, is that so? Then where is that Vishnu who is looking after your welfare? Where is he hiding now?" snarled Iranian. "My father, he permeates everything. There isn't any place that does not have his presence. He is in every pillar and every dust," said Pirahalad. Iranian laughed victoriously. He had formed a master plan in his mind. That Mahavishnu had saved Pirahalad's life many times from danger. It is true. So, if Pirahalad invoke him now, Mahavishnu will appear here now, and I can kill him immediately, thought Iranian. He wielded his mace, made of iron in preparation. The mace is usually made of strong iron. "Pirahalad, you said your Vishnu would be in every pillar. Is he in this pillar too?" he asked, pointing at a huge pillar. Pirahalad replied, unperturbed, "Yes, my dear father, there is no place without Mahavishnu's presence. Permeate everything here." "Is that so?" laughed Iranian boisterously. "In that case, I am going to break this pillar into pieces with my mace. If that Mahavishnu is really powerful, let him appear before me," he said, and wielded his mace. He struck the pillar a heavy blow. Then the pillar broke into two with a huge sound. Sri Narayana Murti, Lord Mahavishnu, appeared like lightning from the pillar, with the face of a lion and the body of a human, known as the Narasimha avatar. His appearance was accompanied by an explosive sound that shook the entire world. Just as Iranian had asked in his boon, the Lord had appeared in the strange but beautiful and dangerous form that was neither man nor animal. At that time, it was neither day nor but twilight. Iranian stood awestruck when he saw Narasimha Murti. All his cruel deeds were coming to an end. Narasimha Murti caught him like an insect and dragged him along the floor to the step of the palace where he sat down. He straddled Iranians across his laps, clawed at his stomach, his sharp nails, pulled out his intestine, and strung it around his neck like a garland. The cruel giant met his end. The remaining Rakshasas ran into hiding. The Devas showered flowers and praised the powerful Lord Mahavishnu. Pirahalada sang song in praise of Mahavishnu, who had taken the avatar of Narasimha in order to save him and the three worlds. Sri Narayana Murti appeared before Pirahalad, bathed in illuminating light. He was accompanied by his consort Sri Lakshmi. He crowned Pirahalad king of the Rakshasas, bestowed boon on him and left. With the blessing of Lord Mahavishnu, Pirahalads ruled his country justly for a long time. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana.